So much for the no laughter rule. We'll let that one go. Our next guest this evening is Terry Mercer. And I should add that actually meeting both of these guys actually confounds that rule about meeting people you admire, because you're both pretty okay guys, as far as it goes. There is a tradition in Canadian political cartooning, which I said earlier is just sort of one of those areas where the Canadian imagination collides with Canadian reality in a very, very interesting and productive way. But I'm not sure that that collision has ever occurred quite so amazingly as it has when Terry Mercer puts his pen to page and comes up with the ideas and images that he does. Since he first joined the Montreal Gazette in 1972, he has created a legacy in political cartooning which is very fearless, totally fearless, very, very funny, and I don't want to underestimate the fact that graphically he is also an absolutely amazing artist. I think that too often isn't mentioned. He's an incredible artist. Terry is recently back from a trip to China, where some very interesting things occurred that he is going to be telling us about. He has been awarded with many, many different honors. None of them have tempted him in any way to soften his approach to his work, and thank God for that. And now, the other reason tonight to be thankful that very few of us are rich or powerful, please join me in welcoming on stage Terry Mercer.
Following Rick Mercer. How many were watching the debates the other night? You look like a... Pretty sure. So help me out here. I'm a visual guy, right? What does a binder full of women look like? In the 45 years I've been in this profession, I've never had anyone walk up to me and say, you know, I hate cartoons. Everybody loves cartoons. Maybe not the same cartoons, but we all love them. You know, we cut them out of wherever, we download them, we put them up online, put them on fridges. When somebody puts a cartoon up in their cubicle, that's more important to me than having a drawing hanging in the National Gallery. Because people have related to this sort of thing. Cartooning remains one of the fastest and cheapest forms of communication at our disposal in the new digital age. The other day, somebody sent me this wonderful thing. Isn't that great? I mean, I don't know who drew this. I don't know where it appeared. But it's a classic, wonderful cartoon. I mean, Rembrandt used the same tricks, curving in on the important elements in a graphic. Also, what this cartoonist has done is use a trick that a lot of he's used to sort of make something a little more gentle, or whatever it happens to be. We use animals to substitute for human beings. They can be cute, they can be threatening, all of these things. In fact, somebody did a study a while back saying that the thing that instantly gets laughs in cartoons, if you include a dog, if you include a duck, and if you include nipples, preferably one nipple. So I'm trying to work on the perfect cartoon about a dog, a duck, and a guy with one nipple walking into a bar. Back to Canada, a couple of years ago, Stephen Harper was looking for a governor general. And so I concocted this thing. I thought, this makes perfect sense. Oh, sorry, wrong cartoon. Back to the drawing board here. Actually, I was going to talk about how we all sort of embrace things as they come along. It's very important to us to be aware of what's going on. Viagra came along in 1998, I think it was. Brian Gable drew this beautiful cartoon in the Globe and Mail of a Viagra truck showing up at the border full of Viagra, followed immediately by a truck full of Viagra jokes. We feed on this stuff because if something is popular and out there, there have been thousands upon thousands of Viagra jokes done since that time. In fact, I'm going to show you my favorite a little later. But a recent one that really grabbed me was this. For use in the back, it says, it's a shame there isn't a pill to stimulate conversation. But look, one nipple. Okay, back to Stephen Harper looking for a new Governor General. At the time, I cobbled together this collage suggesting, but this was only partly done in jest. I mean, I think Rick Mercer would be a great Governor General. If you look around, some of the most famous Canadians in the world are humorists. Do a search in Google Images for famous Canadian comedians, and this is what you come up with. All kinds of I don't know how Stephen Harper got in there. In any case, there are other Canadian humorists whose faces you may not even be familiar with. This is Barry Blitt, a buddy of mine. When he comes home to Montreal, he's from Montreal. They call us the Glum Brothers. We don't have to be funny like Rick on stage. We just got to do it on paper. But Barry is the genius behind those New Yorker covers. He did the Obama fist bump cartoon, if you remember. The Canadian. And then just last week, this brilliant one after the first debate of Romney debating with Clint Eastwood's chair. So we had this great time right here in Toronto. Anita, are you here? Where is she? Stand up. One of your most talented people in Toronto, Anita Kuntz. There she is with my dog Sparky in her splendid studio. Anita did this wonderful cartoon entitled Girls Will Be Girls for the New Yorker. The best-known Canadian comedian in the world is someone you may not even have heard of. Mark Roswell is from Nepean, Ontario, near Ottawa. He lives quietly on a farm just north of Toronto. In China, however, Mark is known as Dashan to a billion Chinese. He has worked regularly as a comedian and entertainer there since 1988. No other foreign national has come close to the level of recognition and popularity in China enjoyed by Dashan. Here Rick is interviewing him in 2010 at the big World Festival there. As Jeff mentioned, I've just returned from China, an interesting tour. I was invited over there to be a judge in a cartoon competition, as were many other cartoonists and animators from all over the world. The Asian Youth Animation and Cartoon Competition is one of the largest gatherings of its kind in existence that takes place annually in the city of Guiyang in the south of China. Each evening we were treated to gigantic extravaganzas celebrating our collective efforts. This might be because the Chinese now recognize that animation and cartooning market is an estimated $3 trillion emerging market. They're onto this. They want to take it over from the Japanese and so on. Look at this next very funny picture. Find the white guy. Thank God I didn't wear a chilly hat. I'd look like a complete Canadian goof. We were handing out awards for the best cosplay costume one evening. Nevertheless, everywhere we went, the Chinese expressed extreme curiosity about Canada and about Canadian cartooning. They knew a lot about the National Film Board and our excellent animation studios, but nothing at all about Canadian cartoonists. The woman on the left is Michelle Wu, one of the chief AYACC organizers. One of the observations we made, by the way, is that women seem to be rapidly taking things over in China, except perhaps at the highest level. The woman on the right is my wife, Mary, perhaps the best foreign ambassador for you Canadian cartoonists who are in the audience. And they began to talk about this business and cooked up the idea that we should go back to China next summer, and at this festival at Beijing University and on national television, we're going to be presenting Canada as seen through the eyes of Canadian cartoonists. It's going to be a wonderful project to work. And look at the people we have to work with. These are the signatures of all the existing political cartoonists working in Canada today. So throughout the winter, I'll be talking with all of them about putting together some material. I'm starting to do a cobble. Let me just show you a few examples of the stuff that I'm playing around with here. The Chinese know we're a big, cold country with very few people. They know we invented the BlackBerry. They don't know we invented Smarties and the chocolate bar. They don't know that we invented the Robertson screw that holds much of the world together. They know about our foliage in, you know, our wonderful fall foliage. But here, I love this cartoon. It's by Graham Mackay at the Hamilton Spectator. They don't know about our spring colors when the ice melts and all the Tim Horton. They know we're a very cold country, but they were quite surprised to hear that it actually can get very, very hot here in Canada. This, of course, is because of global warming. Sue Doerr in the Toronto Sun, wonderful cartoon. Another great one by John Larder, and this is a hilarious cartoon. John Larder at the Calgary Herald, an Inuit on an ice floe. With a polar bear, and obviously with the melting, they've broken off and they've floated south to Vancouver. And the bad news is we've drifted south all the way to Vancouver. The good news is my house is now worth $1.5 million. Andy Donato on sort of the patience of the Inuit watching the exploitation of the North, and sometimes getting a little fed up with what goes on. Dusan is a wonderful cartoonist here in Toronto, and I love this thing where he's explaining immigration coming to Canada. This is sort of the beige, brown Canadians in the Toronto Zoo, but the newcomers are represented by these colorful characters. Then you got an antelope running across and mixing. I want to talk about this, and through some very funny cartoons, about how Canada is probably one of the best melting pots on earth. How we mix with people. And even sometimes we encourage really odd mixtures. Our generational differences. So what I want to do is grab these cartoonists from, this is Marc Baudet and the Journal de Montréal, these wonderful cartoons from different people who explain life here and how it is and how it works. We're one of the oldest countries on earth. The average age now is over 40. Cinders McLeod in the Globe and Mail did this great sketch. It was sort of almost sad, but it's a wonderful, wonderful graphic. Most importantly, what I want to take to the Chinese, this is a cop dusting his own fingers for fingerprints. I want to show the Chinese how we take on our authority figures. We're not afraid of taking on the police whatsoever, all of with the cartoonists right across the country, and certainly our leaders. This goes all the way back to the Plains of Abraham, where a general drew General Wolfe, comparing him to Cromwell. Cromwell's treatment of the art. I mean, it's very strong stuff. But that's where it started, the strong tradition of Canadian cartooning all the way back on the Plains of Abraham. We've drawn leaders, and I'll do this very quickly, as pimps selling out natural resources to the United States. Brian Mulroney, when he boasted about his chin, I put it in a bra. Gilles Duceppe putting on that famous shower cap led to one of the most famous cartoons in Quebec history. He never lived it down. The day after that appeared in the newspapers. Says Chapelot, my colleague at La Presse, drew Duceppe in the shower cap saying, and tomorrow I'm visiting a condom factory. Never lived it down. Bob Ray appearing on Rick Mercer. Skinny dipping. It was quite say. Bob Ray, I was telling Rick before, Bob Ray has the original drawing, but it's hanging in his washroom. Stephen Harper proroguing and sort of charging himself up as a Frankenstein figure. Serge Chapelot again has this wonderful TV show in Quebec, Le Flac, where he takes on all comers. But here's the thing, the point I want to make with the Chinese, that these leaders have to grin and bear it. He destroyed Paul Martin during Paul Martin's regime as prime minister with these animated, wonderful things of Martin, and he's always sort of looking terribly nervous and so on. We had a cartoon convention in June. Who shows up shaking Serge Chapelot's hand? Love your work? Paul Martin. So they love it in a way. But it's important, I think, to take this to China. This is Theo Modakis in the Toronto Star, who's having a field day with the Fords. The interesting thing is that the Fords hate the Toronto Star. It's pretty well known, but they love the cartoons, and he hangs his posters his wall with all of these political cartoons. Local is very important, as the Ford indicated. I started to make my reputation years ago drawing the mayor of Montreal, Jean Drapeau. He claimed that the Olympics could no more have a deficit than a man could have a baby, so I drew him on the phone to Morgenthaler, very pregnant. But it continues today, the nonsense, the wonderful stuff we have to deal with. This is our current mayor with a pothole on the top of his head. Our construction problems in Montreal, the infrastructure, are amazing. And we have these cones everywhere. I know you have them here. You have the black and white ones, but we have the black and orange ones. We have these white and orange cones everywhere, and it's like they're breeding. I mean, they just and suddenly they appear and there's no work going on, but they just sort of suddenly will cut off a laneway, and there's no reason why. We puzzle over it. Then they're through with them, and they just sort of throw them off to the side, and then 6 more appear the next day in the same spot, and nobody knows how they got there. We really got furious last year, I think, with all of the construction that was going on. It was driving us all crazy. I drew this cartoon. I didn't think there was a hope in hell that the Gazette was going to print it. But people were angry enough, and the proof here of anger can motivate. I drew this cartoon of the mayor of Montreal. Oh, sorry. I drew this cartoon of the mayor of Montreal. The Gazette printed it. They printed the cartoon, and I was so astonished that I put it on my latest book cover. So, the book is the best cartoons of the last 3 years. I like to do this because the fact of the matter is, and cartoonists here will agree with me, often we draw cartoons that eventually are eminently forgettable. It's a little-known cabinet minister, a small issue, and they kind of disappear. But every couple of years, I like to produce a book of the cartoons I'm particularly pleased with and put it together. And so there's a lot of stuff. I'll go through this quickly because I know we want to get to question and answer, but I'll give you a sort of a selection of stuff. Again, City Hall wrapped in crime tape. We got a lot of stuff going on right now on that front. The anarchists, you know, hey, I'm on YouTube. But Montreal, of course, did it in a different way, the wonderful Occupy movement. Then the students really got into it, and they began wearing all these red stickers demanding no tuition. And some of us were kind of victims. This poor woman just stepped out for a latte. So let me explain the sticker business to you. Wear a red patch and you are in support of the striking students. In other words, no tuition increases. Wear a green patch and you think they should go back to school. Wear a white patch and you would like to see a truce called. And wear a brown patch and you think it's all bullshit. So again, this got into the newspaper. Wow.